Hi, thanks for joining me. I'm Paj. As I believe it, all of us are called to receive and to give. As a medical professional, I often see metaphors in the physical bodies that illuminate things in the body of Christ. As part of my giving, I write, endeavor to be clear and concise. Here, I will share things I've learned as a husband, father, pastor, and physician assistant. I hope that something I say will improve your journey. In Part 1 and Part 2 of Ischemia, which means reduction of blood flow, we will talk about how ischemia illustrates things which reduce the flow of the blood of Christ into and through us, and what we can do to reduce the ischemia in our spiritual lives. History and etymology for ischemia. New Latin, ischemia is from ischemius, styptic, a substance capable of stopping bleeding when applied to a wound. In Greek, ischemos, stopping blood. From ischein, to restrain, plus haima, blood. Ischemia is a restriction of blood's flow. We will focus on 4 ischemias or restraints: external constriction, vasoconstriction, chemically or cytokine-induced blood flow constriction, arteriosclerosis, which is stiffening of the arteries, atherosclerosis, the fatty obstruction of the arteries. External constriction. Imagine a rope tied around your wrist, tightening down and crushing the blood vessels against the bone of the wrist. Your blood would not be able to freely flow through this constriction and into your hands. This is external constriction, and it would cause ischemia. External constriction. Sometimes we are in bonds. The constraints are truly there. I've been in some constraints. Thankfully, the physical ones have been very brief, but only because of God's grace, not my goodness. I have also been in bondage to limits that weren't physical, but yet very strong. I have too often in those moments reacted with fruitless resistance, tugging and fighting restraints in the moments when they were not going to be broken. This fruitless internally generated tugging and fighting caused ischemia, a loss of the flow due to the pressure that I applied and magnified. I want to direct our attention to Acts 16:25 through 26. And at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto God, and the prisoners heard them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken. And immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's bands were loosed. They were in restraint, yet they prayed and sang. I have also tried prayer and worship in times of restraint and kept the blood flowing. How I respond during restraint can allow or constrict the flow in that moment. I suggest, at this time of shelter-in-place restraint, that we pray and sing to allow the blood to continue to flow. Vasoconstriction. Cytokines. Remember, these medical terms are just Greek or Latin slang. Cyto means cell. Kine is from kinin, which means to move. Cytokine means to move a cell. Cytokines cause cells to do something. We have muscles in the walls of our blood vessels. They can relax and allow widening of the blood vessels, or tighten up and narrow the blood vessels. Some cytokines can cause those blood vessel muscles to tighten up and to constrict, shutting down the blood flow. Those cytokines cause ischemia. Lisinopril belongs to a class of drugs known as ACE inhibitors. ACE inhibitors restrain the impact of angiotensin-converting enzymes. These medications act as cytokines to widen or dilate my blood vessels. I take one daily. This cell-moving chemical increases the amount of blood my heart pumps and lowers my blood pressure, lowering my heart's workload. Thus, it counters the ACE's ischemia. The cytokines we will focus on are SARS. S means sayings, things we say to and about ourselves. A are acceptances, things we accept or believe about ourselves. R, are repetitions, things we heard in our youth or our vulnerable days that we repeat to and about ourselves. The question is, which SARS are we releasing into our system? Are we saying, accepting, and repeating statements which affect us like my lisinopril and ACE inhibitor? Are our words relaxing the constriction and allowing more flow? Or are we speaking and repeating the things that magnify the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences? Please study or review the impact of ACEs. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time. Please like, subscribe, and leave comments and questions below.